And now we'd like to introduce our featured modeler. I'm really looking forward to this. Chris Course recommended this lady to come and talk with us, and I couldn't be more thrilled. I think this is really going to be interesting. I used to belong to this organization many years ago. This was at the time the golden rule of organizations that you had to belong to if you were a collector of model trains. And I was big time and loved every minute that I was involved with this organization. I'm going to ask Chris to introduce this lady because without him, I would never have found her and wouldn't have thought about inviting her. I'm so happy that she's here tonight. And Chris, thank you so much for the recommendation and for making sure that we could get this done. So Chris, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Jim. Being a purveyor of Strasbourg on occasion, because it's 45 minutes north of here, there's many businesses and things that I've come across, some of them by accident. And the National Toy Train Museum is up that way. And I figured that would be an interesting thing for our people to take a look at. So they're located in Ronks, Pennsylvania. And I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I'll just turn it over to Tammy Hersh. She, I believe, is their public relations director up there. Is that right, Tammy?
No, I'm actually the National Business Office Manager.
Okay. Well,
We have a public relations and marketing committee that we use. I do some of the advertising here in-house, but we have committees that we rely on. So I want to thank you for inviting me. I am going to just do a short presentation and that I put together, and it's about the Train Collectors Association as well as the National Toy Train Museum and the library. So the Train Collectors Association owns and operates the museum and the library. We refer to it as TCA, so out in the train world you may hear it as TCA. It was founded in Yardley, Pennsylvania in 1954, and the first meeting was held in the barn of Ed Alexander. This is actually the first group of train collectors that organized the TCA. The same year, there were collectors on the West Coast, and they met and organized the Western Division. And the result of these two meetings, the one on the West Coast and the one on the East Coast, formed the TCA. Today, we have 20 geographic divisions all across the United States and internationally, and 32 chapters within those divisions. In 1957, the TCA was incorporated as a nonprofit corporation in the state of Pennsylvania. The TCA is a membership-based organization, and we have currently we have about 19,000 active members worldwide. The TCA holds an annual convention hosted by a different division in a different geographic location every year. But last year, for the first time since 1955, we had to cancel the convention due to COVID, which was kind of disappointing. But this year we're going to try it. We're going to modify it a little bit. It's usually the last week in June, but it's going to be held in Burbank, California, and we've moved it to the end, to the 18th of August. And one of the reasons we did that is because we kind of ran out of time to get it all planned for the end of June, and it's typically from Saturday to Saturday. This year we shortened it up because we're not quite sure how many people want to travel and that kind of thing. So we're going to try it just so we have something that our members can do, because they really like to attend the conventions here that we have. So if you're interested, you can go to the website I have listed here, tcaconvention.org. We have all the information, and our registration opens in 2 weeks. So the Toy Train Museum is located in Strasbourg. Our physical address is Ronks, but we are part of the Strasbourg community. And our museum is designed to look like a Victorian era train station, which on the right-hand side of your screen, that's a model that was created several years ago of the front of the museum. So that's what the front of our museum actually looks like. And it's home to what we believe is the world's largest collection of toy and model trains. We have about 25,000 pieces dating back to the early 1800s, with about 4,000 pieces currently on display in the museum. We collect and preserve and exhibit toy trains and accessories, and the displays include rare, unusual, and specialty trains and accessories from over 100 different manufacturers. We have 7 interacting layouts in the museum, all scales, O, S, H, O, G, standard, and we even have a Lego layout. Everything is made of Legos, the trains, the tracks, the buildings, everything. And we also have a replica of a 1928 store layout. So here are just a couple of pictures of the layouts. Here's the Lego layout. We actually have a Lego group that I think is organized out of Baltimore. And they come up and built this layout for us and got it all running. Here is our O gauge. This is actually the Department 56 side of it. There's a little trolley that runs through there. But then in the back of this, you can see the mountains. There's a couple of loops that go around the mountains. Here's our S gauge layout. We have a group of gentlemen from New Jersey. I call them our S gaugers. They come up here every January and they totally maintain this S gauge layout. So they deserve a lot of credit for this. The trains on the back walls are also, some of them are also owned by the S gaugers that come up. Here's our standard gauge layout. Here's our G gauge layout. And then our little HO layout. Here's the display of the 1928 store display. This layout was actually donated to us. We have some of the most interesting and unique items in the toy train world, and I just have a few of them I'd like to share with you so you can see exactly some of the rare things that we have. We have a Markland Wonder Wheel. This is one of 3 that were shipped to the United States. And they used these in the 1950s in dealer, like in the storefronts and in dealers' stores to advertise for Markland. This gigantic wheel is rotated by a tiny E-engine CM 800, which is it powers this whole thing. There's no electric to it. It's like a friction thing, I think. I'm not a real train person, so I just have to learn as I go along. The current value of this is $17,000. It's one of the most expensive pieces that we have in our collection. This is the oldest train that we have in the museum currently. It is a Milton Bradley passenger set. It's wooden and it's covered with Bradley's graphic lithography, Grand Excursion train to Rocky Mountains in California. It was manufactured in 1880, and this is on display as well. Here's a couple of other old pieces that we have. The Lionel Mickey Mouse handcart. In 1900, Joshua Lionel Cohen founded the Lionel Manufacturing Company, and in 1918, the company was renamed the Lionel Corporation. By the 30s, the company became the forefront runner of toy train production. The Great Depression took a really big toll on the company, and in 1934, they went into receivership to avoid bankruptcy. This Mickey Mouse handcar was produced to save the company, and it was selling for $1. And within 4 months, they sold over 253,000 of these handcars. And by that December, they were totally out of debt because of the sale of this car. So Lionel actually saved Disney from going bankrupt. Here's another interesting Mickey Mouse car that we have. This is the circus train from 1935. I had to do it in 2 different pieces because I was trying to take it through the display cabinet and it wasn't working out too well. but it's an engine, a tender, a diner car, a band car, and an animal car. And they're all detailed. It has a battery powered headlight. It came with a cardboard tent and tickets, which are seldom found today. And it was sold in 1935. And this is a not cataloged item from Lionel. So it increases the value of it. And then in 2018, we were invited by Stout Auctions to come out and to Indiana and preview their collection of the Lionel archives that they were asked to auction off for Lionel. So we went and we acquired, I think, about 17 pieces, and we created a display here in the museum for the Lionel archives. One of these items is this top one right here. It's kind of hard to see, but this is the Lionel New York City and HRR number 5 standard gauge tender, and that is the original box that it came in. And then we have a Hudson. We have a 1937 Hudson. This came to us in an estate that we were named in a will. And if you know anything about toy trains, this, as I understand it, is one of the best pieces available and one of the most sought out pieces for O-gauge collectors. The owner of this Hudson stated that it was purchased at Yeatman's hardware store in Clarendon, Virginia, in 1938. This piece actually has the tissue that the train was wrapped in, the inside boxes, and then the outside boxes, well, the original Lionel boxes. So this is a pretty highly sought out piece that we have on display. And then then we have the library. We have a unique collection of information on the history and characteristics of toy trains in the United States and elsewhere. We are a research, not a lending library. So we have over 500,000 library items, paper, catalogs, research books, instruction books, guides, auction lists, anything you can think of, catalogs, advertising, postcards, a whole wide variety of library items. We also, our library is also the house of the Train Collectors Association archive material, and it has original information dating back to when it was founded in 1954. And then I had asked our librarian to give me some of the most interesting and unique items that are in the library collection. And she gave me a few. This is one of the oldest items in the library's collection. It's an 1877 Strasburger Playfair and Company catalog. So this company was known for having one of the best selections of quality toys and window displays in New York during the holiday season. So there were toys, trains listed in this 1877 catalog. Another thing that we have a lot of are American and world manufacturers. We have a very large collection of catalogs and other related paper from a wide range of American and world manufacturers. 3 examples from our collection is the 1898 Carlisle and Finch catalog, which is this one over here, a 1930 Markland catalog down here, and then the spring 1946 Lionel Advanced catalog. And then we have a Hafner scrapbook. This is one of the most valuable and one-of-a-kind items that we have in our library. It's very fragile. Most of the time, if they need to reference it, it's done off of photocopies from this scrapbook because it is so rare and it is so fragile. But this is an example of a 1940 advertisement for a Hafner train that was you can purchase through Gimbel's department store. And then we also have a paper train collection in our library. And as you can see, these are pretty rare. They used to be on cereal boxes. And then this train down here, this paper train down here was actually created by some of our members and is in our collection. Every year, the library and its committee does an exhibit in the museum. They have a specific window that they are allowed to, or that they put a display. This year, it's Frank Ellison and the Delta Lines. So it's a nice display. It gives our museum guests a chance to see what we have in the library. And then we also have some famous members that have been members of the Train Collectors Association in the past. And I just thought I'd share a couple of these with you because I think it's kind of interesting of who they were. So the first one was Ward Kimball. Ward was an animator for the Walt Disney Company. And he actually is the designer and the creator of Jiminy Cricket. That's where he got his notoriety and fame, so to speak. And he also helped inspire Walt Disney to install the Disneyland Railroad. And Mr. Kimball had a passion for collecting toy trains and had a significant collection at the time of his death. Mandy Patinkin, he's just an American actor and singer, and he was starred in Evita and the Chicago Hope. He was a train collector from the 90s and remained a member until 2002. I think the next couple you'll really find interesting. Frank Sinatra was a big member of the Train Collectors Association, and he had a huge collection. This is actually a photo down here of his actual layout that he had. He was a member starting in 1983 and until the time of his death in 1998. He actually was born in Hoboken, New Jersey, where he started his interest in toy trains in the 20s. And he would make a trip to Manhattan whenever he had the opportunity to look at the displays in the holiday, in the stores at the holidays. He was known to stroll around the Lionel factory with Joshua Lionel Cohen and pick the latest Lionel offerings to add to his growing collection. He collected trains from almost every major manufacturer, and the value of his collection eventually exceeded over $1 million. And then Neil Young. Neil was an avid train collector starting in 1979 until 2007. He became interested because his two sons have cerebral palsy, and he thought it would be good for them to interact. He once was a part owner of the Lionel train. He has since sold his entire collection to benefit the Bridge School in San Francisco, which is for disabled children. And Neil Young could often be seen walking around the train meet that TCA had at York. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I invite you to visit our websites. All of our contact information is on there, and I would be happy to answer any questions should you have any.
Tammy, do you have to be a TCA member to come to the museum?
No, you do not. If you're a TCA member, you can get in for free. Otherwise, you can pay an admission price.
Okay. Do you have to be a TCA member to use your library?
No, everything here is open to the public.
How do you use your library? How would I go about using your library? I would call up and say, I'm interested in this. Do you have somebody that then works with me or helps me, or how would that work?
Yes, we have a librarian that has a master's degree, and we also have a library assistant on staff here. They're both full-time employees, and they can do research for you either online or via email, over telephone, or if you want to come up, you're more than welcome. to talk to them about that and set up a time. Because the museum's only open on weekends right now until Memorial Day. Then we're open 7 days a week. So you could visit during the week, but I recommend that you call the library and try and schedule something with them. But you're allowed to use all of the materials in the library. You just can't take them out of the library. We don't sign anything out.
So digitally, your librarian could make copies for me or
Yep.
what?
Yeah,
Yep.
we charge a small nominal fee to make photocopies and to research. If it is over a half hour worth of research, then we charge a small fee for that as well.
Okay.
But yeah, we do offer, as long as everything's within the copyright rules and laws, they'll make you copies of whatever you would like. They help research and write a lot of books with Bruce Greenberg. And they also help Roger Karp with Classic Toy Trains. He's writing another book right now, and they do a lot of the research for those individuals as well.
Do the train model, the railroads the layouts that you have, are they operational? Do you operate those for people or
No.
static?
Nope, they're all interactive. We have all the trains are operating, as well as a lot of the accessories on the layouts. So we have push buttons. So when you go through, you can push it, it starts the train, you push it, it starts the firehouse. Everything is operated by push buttons. We're trying to transition everything over so it's more automated with motion sensors, that you really don't have to push the buttons to operate the trains. Everything will just be automatic when you walk by it.
So the TCA, do they have, are you just Lionel and Hafner and Ives and American Flyer, or are you also getting scale model railroaders also to participate in the TCA?
We are getting more model railroaders. We're getting more scale collectors. We're getting more operators. We are actually in the process of redeveloping our entire website, and that's one of the marketing tactics that we're going to use. It's to gain a greater audience, that we're not just for collectors, that we're for all kinds of trained people, hobbyists, collectors, modelers, anybody that is interested in anything that has to do with toy trains.
When I was a Lionel collector, the TCA was the gold standard. If you were a Lionel collector, you needed to belong to the TCA. That was the gold standard of all the organizations that were out there at the time. And it used to take, I forget now, I think I know it was at least 2, it may have been 3 people that had to verify that I was worthy of becoming a TCA member. You had to be recommended by that number of people, and then the TCA decided whether the membership wanted you as a member. And that was part of the organization's gold standard status when I was a member, because you were confident that if you did business with another TCA member, it was going to be a satisfactory business relationship. You had nothing to worry about. You weren't going to be taken. They weren't trying to take you. This was an up and up kind of a person you were dealing with. Now I understand that's no longer true, that it's kind of open to the world. Is that a problem for TCA these days?
No, I don't think it's a problem. The first year you're a member, you're actually in a probationary period. So we kind of keep track of if you're doing any shenanigans with selling and buying, that kind of thing. We keep a close watch on it. We do have a very, very good and very thorough membership complaint department, where all of our members know that they have to live up to those standards that we expect them to. And if they don't, and we get a complaint about it, I have an entire committee that reviews the complaint, and then we bring it to the board if we have to, and then the ramifications come out of that. Very often, or not very often that we have to do that. Most of our train collectors are honest people. Every now and again, you'll hear of something along the line or in the wind about, something happening, but for the most part, we don't see a whole lot of that.
Has the TCA considered using their reputation for being a gold standard organization to in effect act as a better business bureau for small manufacturers?
I'm not really sure, but that sounds like a good idea to me.
It does to me too, because it would certainly give the small manufacturers, I think, an advantage in the marketplace. Because as I remember, you don't know who you're dealing with in a lot of cases. You never have met them.
Mhm.
I think that this might help them get their organization recognized and so forth, and might be something the TCA ought to consider.
Yes, that's a very good idea. Very good suggestion.
So I'm a scale model railroader. I stopped collecting Lionel when I lost my basement and had to downsize. So now I'm just a scale model railroader. I scratch build a lot of my stuff. What's the TCA offer me? Why should I join the TCA?
Well, we have, you can form a lot of friendships. That's one thing a lot of our TCA members really value. We have, publications where you can buy and sell. You can, actually use our library for free then for a lot more services than what you could from a public standpoint. We have events, we have some member exclusive train meets. So if you're a TCA member, you can take advantage of going to member only things. Or if it's a TCA meet that is open to the public, the first hour of every meet is for members only before the public comes in. So you get advantages that way. You could do a lot of, like I said, a lot of research in our library to get information that you need. Plus you could come here and visit me for nothing.
There you go. Well, if somebody else has questions, I don't want to monopolize this, but does somebody else have some questions for Tammy?
Yeah, I have a question. What about manufacturing? It's like sort of like behind the scenes of how the toys were actually made, or is that something that's not really, that was never really documented?
They probably have documents in the library because we do actually accept or acquire toy catalogs and toy magazines as well. If you think about it this way, like anything that could be on a layout, people, cars, buildings, anything on a layout is kind of considered a toy as well. We also have information in our library on those things as well. Like Tootsie toys and that kind of thing, Dinky toys, whatever they're called. We have a lot of that information as well in our library. And we're actually always looking for people to volunteer to be on our library and museum committees. They're two of the most important committees in the Train Collectors Association. Because this is a membership-driven organization, we rely on donations and volunteer time to help us maintain and operate this building. So we're always looking for new members for our museum and library committees to help us with projects. There's always something that needs done on the layouts, whether it's re-landscaping, fixing accessories, rewiring trains, retracking it, fixing engines, whatever the case may be. We're always looking for people with those skill sets to come on board and help us out, even if it's once a month or once every 2 months. It doesn't have to be a consistent every week thing, but we're always looking for people to help us out in that way, because it's hard to find people that that have those skill sets that want to volunteer their time.
Yeah, it's, I mean, right now I'm looking looking for work and all that, and most of my skill set requires me to be at the location. And so, that I live in Vermont, so it's like I can't really, go for a job that's in California because that's a long commute.
Right, exactly.
But I know for myself, there's a sort of kind of looking for like I want to say I'm not sure if this is the correct terminology, but like the sort of like the tin plate aesthetic, where it's sort of like, I think it's enameled on the sides. I'm not quite sure.
Oh, I don't know. The library could probably help you out, Ed, and they would be glad to do that. Like I said, I'm not a trained person. I came here in 2014 and I was an administrative assistant, and the operations manager retired, and because of my previous skill sets that I was offered the position, that's why I'm in this position now. But I know nothing about trains. Like whatever I know about trains, I've learned since I came here. And so now I tell everybody, I think I can have a somewhat intelligent conversation about it, but I'm not knowledgeable at all. So all my people that I work with know that, and that's one of the things that I don't claim to know. But they would be able to tell you, they would be able to research that for you and give you any of the information that you needed.
Okay, so you're someone that you can give a tour of the place and all that, but if somebody asks a question like I just did, you're like, oh no.
Exactly. Now I know that there's a couple of my people on this Zoom call. Bob Lebonsky was on the Zoom call, and he is actually our museum committee chair. Jim Potts is actually our current president of the TCA and also our library committee chair. Stuart Rankin was on. I don't know if he's still on. He is our incoming president. He's our president-elect. He will take office July 1st when Jim is finished. And Jay Shao is our vice president, so he will be moving up to president-elect. And I also think I saw Katie Elgar on the call. She's our current national treasurer. And there may have been a couple other board members on the call. Dan Glover, I think I saw Rupert Campbell were on here as well. So they're the guys that you need for your knowledge. Like they can give you any of the knowledge. Jim Potts is avid paper collector as well as trains. So Jim can pretty much tell you anything you wanted to know about the library side. Bob Lebonsky collects, I think, post-war. I'm not sure, but I think. So he can tell you anything about that. You know what I mean? So those are the guys I rely on. I rely heavily on our library staff, our museum staff, to give me the information that I need to be able to do something like this.
Well,
Tam,
Yeah.
with the people who are from the TCA, if they want to introduce themselves, they can go right ahead. You're just making sure you unmute first.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Jim Potts. I'm president of TCA this current year. Our library committee meets monthly. I'm also chairman of that committee, and we try our best to improve what we have in the library constantly. That means more original material. We're currently rebuilding our website to make it more user-friendly so that you can access things on our library through the website. That's one of our big goals currently that we're working on. The reference library is for everybody, but members get more special privileges, obviously, can access more than a non-member. The research, if you call in or email into the librarian, if she can't answer a question, she has a large list of contact people, members like myself, that she instantly contacts to dig out the information, things that only collectors would know by working with these old antique trains. And then she excellent at digging the information out of the material that's actually in the library. Our goal is to have one original copy, hard copy of everything to do with old manufacturing of American and European and actually all foreign toy trains primarily. We are getting into more scale modeling. More and more of our members are scale modelers. Scale model material shows up at our shows. Our largest show held in York, Pennsylvania, twice a year, has a large number of new material offered for sale from scale modelers and people who build replicas of older tin plate and toy trains. So it would be a good fit for a scale modeler to at least check us out and see what we have to offer at our shows primarily, and then at our library also. Besides visiting the museum if you get to Stratford, Pennsylvania. Okay.
All right, thank you, Jim.
I'd like to say thank you tonight for having the TCA on here. Jim, Edward, Chris, I think it's outstanding to have such a diverse group of people on this call here tonight. Jim, I do just want to touch on one thing that you asked earlier as a scale modeler, and you just heard Jim mention scale modelers are growing within TCA. With your second to none resume of talents, you still probably learn new things from your circle of friends. Imagine if your circle of friends grew by 19,000 new friends. Imagine all the new things you could learn. So Tammy did touch on the camaraderie. I also want to second that. Having 19,000 new friends is a great reason to be a member of TCA again. Again, thank you so much for having TCA on here tonight. Truly appreciate it. I believe Jay Shao, our current vice president and next president-elect, is also with us tonight.
Let me interrupt you just a minute before the next gentleman talks. And since I've got the current president on here with Tammy, I appreciate your comments. You're exactly right. I learn new stuff every day. The reason I love to do these shows is to have a diversity of viewpoints and so forth. That's why I belong to so many of the Facebook Lionel and American Flyer groups, and still have my toe in that world, even though I'm not able to collect anymore. I just don't have the space down here in Florida. What I would like to propose for you is I'd like to do a regular segment. I'd like to offer the TCA the opportunity to host that with me. And I'd like to be able to talk about the history of model railroading in it. As you heard me talk a few minutes ago, I have a segment I'm starting about remembering the old kits, where we actually have modelers come on and build from the old kits the way we used to have to build back in the 50s and 40s. And it's a totally different world from the way it was then as you build today. Primarily the people on this show are scale modelers, although we do have collectors on the show. And I encourage that. That's why I post the stuff like I did for Tammy on the Lionel Facebook pages. And that's why I'm encouraging you all to consider hosting a history part on my show on a regular basis. And that can be a month or however many times you'd like to do it, and who you would have do that or who you'd like to coordinate that through. That's fine. I'll work with you any way that we can. But I do think that the history of our hobby is something that's overlooked and not talked about. And bringing the history back to life, not just talking about the paper part of it, but actually being able to show some of the stuff that was made back in that time period, and what a model railroader was having to go through. And I think that's a valuable lesson, and I'd love to be able to have a segment on my show with you all being providing the people for it, and it can be a TCA part of it as far as I'm concerned. If you would like to consider that, Tammy has my email. She can get in touch with me and let me know who to talk to or how to proceed with that. But I'd be most pleased if the TCA would consider it. Excuse me, go ahead.
Thank you, Jim.
We would be happy to do that, Jim.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. Just send me an email when you can, and maybe we can talk by phone. My phone number is on the website. So you can, if you go to our website, my phone is listed there and it's a cell number. So just give me a call and anytime. But I would really am serious. I'd really like to start this. Tammy, I sent you an email about it a little bit ago, and I'm really serious. I think it could be valuable information to have, how to present it, what to include in it. I need your guidance because you are the historian part of this right now for me. So I would need a lot of guidance and help trying to structure it, who to have on it, when to do it, that kind of thing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jim, you gave us a quick introduction of the TCA with your group. We certainly appreciate you doing what you did. By quick count, I've got 11 of the officers, 4 past presidents, a couple of 3 committee chairmen and board members on this thing tonight. So you have certainly got our attention. Thank you again.
Well, I hope they come back. I hope they come back one more time. I hope we haven't scared them off too badly tonight.
I like to say that I've been a TCA member since 2015, and I was happy with the Rio Grande chapter, and I was fortunate to help out in 2019 with the TCA National Convention that was held here. So I really appreciate what the TCA is doing. Thank you.
Jay, did you want to introduce yourself to these guys?
Yeah, I'm Jay Shao, the vice president, current vice president, recently elected president-elect. So when Stu becomes president, I'll be taking over his slot. I want to just mention that we have some really terrific people who speak regularly on the history of toy trains. John DeSantis, Jim Burke, Wayne Sheriff, I think Joe Fanara has done some of that, and we've got a bunch of people. We've also got on this particular call, Bob Lebonsky, who is the chairman of our museum committee. And I think Bob might have a few words to add about the museum. He's done a remarkable, he and his committee have done a remarkable job on putting together some terrific displays in the Bronx Museum. So maybe Bob could follow me and put in a few words.
You're still on.
Okay, yeah, I'm Bob Lebonsky. I don't know how to, there you go. Yeah, our entire museum is maintained by free labor. So if anybody has any time, we're always looking for some help out there, especially on the layouts, which would be something that I'm sure, a lot of you guys that had access to Strasbourg, would enjoy doing. We're always improving. And our major work takes place between January and April when we close the museum. That's when if we're going to do anything major, it comes apart. I mean, we've had that place that looks like an explosive device went off in there, and in a few months it goes back together again. And as Tammy had mentioned and Jim Potts had mentioned about our new website, we're trying to appeal to anybody that has any interest in any kind of train other than a real train. And recently we acquired from a donation about a 400-pound live steamer that we now have on display on its own iron trestle. And like I said, we're trying to, attract and bring in as members anybody that wants to play with any kind of train. And as soon as you walk into our museum, this 400-pound, 6-foot, 7-foot long thing is sitting there showing, what we're trying to do. But we have every scale running, down to HO and up to G gauge. And as Tammy said, they're all interactive. And right now we've been incorporating a lot of microcomputers on there. So a lot of things take place simultaneously, when you push a button. And we have a pretty good time. We work for food, basically. We come out, we work all day, we have lunch and go home. So, Yeah, we're always available. If you just contact our museum manager, basically, Melody Rogers, you can just get a hold of her, if you have any interest in coming in and give us a hand. She's there full time. And she'll show you, what needs to be done. We have a full shop in there where we're maintaining rolling stock, engines, and so forth. But we have a pretty good time. We have a good crew that comes out there. We've been a little hampered this past couple of off seasons, people kind of antsy to come out of the house, due to the virus, but, started opening up a little bit this year. But yeah, we welcome anybody to come in and give us a hand, and especially give us some ideas of things that we might want to look at to implement. When I first got involved with this, Tammy suggested the Lego layout, and that's one of the most interesting pieces we have there. The kids come in, they know exactly what this is, and it kind of like sparks their interest. Now, what kind of an issue their family has when this kid goes home, I don't know. That's really not our problem, whether they have to go out and buy a new set. But that really made a big hit with them. And then Tammy decided we needed to have sunsets over each layout. So we built an automated system in my shop and took it up. So now we have a slow sunset on each layout, and it walks around the room, and you have to decide whether it's your eyes or something's really taking place here. And then you finally figure out that, yeah, it just went dark, and, the town's lit up, and it's been working out pretty well. But yeah, any ideas like that, we really look forward to getting from people, and then we try to figure out how to implement them. So like I said, if anybody has any interest in giving us a hand, like, you're more than welcome. And you're also more than welcome to join. Thanks for having us.
Well, I'll make another offer to the organization, see if you guys are interested and really how interested in scale you are. I have a featured modeler every night on my shows. I do these twice a week, Wednesday and Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Been doing them for a little bit over a year now, believe it or not. If you have modelers that would like to be on my show as a featured modeler, then have them contact me. Particularly, I'm interested in Lionel operators, American Flyer operators that operate scale-like model railroads, except with 10-plate trains. I'd love to get some of those people on the show. I'd love to be able to show their modeling. I'd love for them to be able to talk about their model railroads and the scales that they are involved in. I write articles for 2 online publications. One of them is S-Scale, which would be American Flyer. Other is O-Scale, which would certainly be Lionel. I'd love to do a separate article on the modelers in O-Scale, Lionel, or in S-Scale, American Flyer, who are operating in a scale-like manner. I'd love to do nothing but an article and profile people. If it takes an article that's 20, 30, 40 pages long, that's no big deal for me. But I'd really like to do that. I'd like to focus on the relationship between part scale and part 10-plate in both articles, and I'd like to bring that relationship to my show. So if the TCA has members that would like to work with us to do that, my email is Jim Kellow, JimKellow, numeric 1 @gmail.com. And my phone number, like I say, is on the webpage. So if you're interested, your members are interested, please contact me and let's see what we can put together.
I think, Jim, what I will do is I will contact you, and you and I together can write something up as to what you want or what you're interested in. And then I can include it in our publication. I can include it in our e-blast. we can put an announcement on our website that you're looking for these kind of people. And I think we can try and find some people for you. So I'll
All right.
work with you we'll come up with something, some kind of description, you and I, and then we'll get that taken care of.
Because I think you had a nice answer when I asked you the question of why should a scale modeler join your organization. I thought your answer was good. Because having been a TCA member, I know the value of that first hour getting into the local show
Mhm.
before the general public, because that's when all the goodies were gone. I understand exactly what you're saying about the value of the organization. So anybody else have anything for Tammy or the TCA in general?